Well, thank you all for coming today. It's an absolute honour to be here amongst so many members of our multicultural community and media that play such an important role in informing and engaging in public debate, public conversation in Australia. And it's really the strength of the Australian community that we have such a strong and vibrant multicultural community.
Good afternoon, everybody. My apologies for being late. There's a emerging constitutional problem with the government that they've decided to cancel the Parliament, the House of Representatives, for the next week. And that's why not only was Tony Burke scheduled to be here, but he stood up with me to talk about the latest extraordinary chaos from Mr Turnbull and his government. But on to happier topics for the moment. Tony and I are here to underscore two propositions. The first is that if we can elect the remarkable and energetic and successful Christina Keneally as the next member for Bennelong, then that is great for the communities of Bennelong. The second reason why I'm here is it's a very good opportunity for me as leader of the National Labor Party and for me as the alternative Prime Minister to pay my respect and underline our commitment to all of the groups in the Bennelong community and more broadly, but in particular, but not exclusively, residents of a non-English speaking background, in particular, not exclusively, people with a Chinese heritage and a Korean heritage, amongst others. Only Labor can be trusted to promote the issues which I think are most important to the various communities and interests who consume your media. In particular, I want to stress and draw to your attention our ongoing commitment to ensuring that young people can get access to world quality education. And I don't just speak about the early years before the kids go to school, I speak about the schooling system and our support to properly fund all schools, not just government schools, but to support Catholic and independent and religious faith-based schools. Our commitment to reverse some of the dreadful cuts to university which make it harder for young people to be able to afford to go to university. It's also an opportunity for me to underscore that if Labor forms a government, we are absolutely committed as a key economic reform to engage more deeply with our neighbours to the north. And of course I talk in particular, but not just, Korea and China and other Asian economies. We call our economic policy of engagement Future Asia. It's being spearheaded by Chris Bowen, my Shadow Treasurer, and our economic team, but it crosses all of our thinking. For example, we are absolutely committed to doing everything we can to ensure that children who go to Australian schools get an opportunity to learn an Asian language. We think that if we can prepare the next generation of Australians with the best possible quality education and indeed exposure to culture and language from the countries to the north of Australia, then we think that can only benefit. What we also want to do with our Future Asia strategy is increase Asia literacy amongst Australian corporations. We want to work with the Australian Institute of Company Directors to make sure that we increase the number of directors on Australian companies who have an understanding of Asia. We're also very committed to working with the various diasporas, the Chinese Australian community, the Korean Australian community, to make sure that we are doing more to provide opportunities to work on the people-to-people connections which these communities contribute to Australian life. So, be it in the economy, or be it in education, or be it in healthcare, we want to make sure that we keep the price of going to the doctor down so that people are able to see the doctor when they need to, not when they can afford to. And of course, as our people grow older, we're committed to reforming aged care. We think it is most important as people grow older that they have the opportunity to have culturally and linguistically diverse aged care provided to them, because we think that's the best way to ensure care for older Australians regardless of their background. Before I hand over to Tony to say a few words, if I can return back to this lady next to me, who, if you don't mind me saying, she's a winner. She's energetic, she's got the brains, and she's got the long-term commitment to this community. What we want to do in this by-election, it's not a competition between Mr. Alexander and Christina Keneally alone. It's a question of who do you want to represent you, not just on December the 16th, but for the next 5 and 10 years. Christina, while she's a mother and a successful leader, is someone who will be around for the long haul. She is quite simply an investment in the community, and she has the capacity to go the distance. So when we look at this election, it's an opportunity to send a message to Canberra. The communities want active, energetic, successful representation going forward. The Labor Party is the party of multicultural Australia. It is one reason why we refuse to preference one nation. The One Nation political party, led by Senator Hanson, has views, some of which simply are racist. And we believe this country works best when we have cultural diversity. And we believe this country works best when we're getting the best out of people. There are Australians by birth and there are Australians by choice. And both the sets of Australians contribute to the Australian story going forward. Christina understands, as does Labor, that when you live in a neighbourhood and you get people from an immigrant background moving next door, be it a Chinese Australian family or a Korean Australian family, no one is ever unhappy. When you have a business in the shopping centre and the neighbouring business is a small business run by people of Australian Chinese background or Australian Korean background, for example, then generally the whole economic vibe of the shopping centre improves. We welcome and support the multicultural values of family, of respect for learning, of respect for older people. We think that the combination of hard work, respect for family, the multicultural diversity, we think this can be enhanced if we pick Christina Keneally to be the next Labor member for Bennelong. And I'll tell you, she'll do something else. She'll make sure that if you live in an apartment, you get better quality NBN. If you've got to Skype the family in another part of the world, she'll make sure that we've got the proper internet so you can actually have that quality of life which makes a difference. It's my pleasure to call Christina a friend, but what I really ask you to do is, if we can call her the next member for Bennelong, then we can really get this place jumping, we can really get this place going. She has all the quality